Nat here with Nat's Knots. I'm going to show you how to make this rose granny square. Like and subscribe if you want to see more tutorials like this. Now let's get started. We'll start with a magic ring. Chain 3. And then 15 double crochets into the magic ring. And tighten the ring. And slip stitch to the top of the beginning chain. Chain 3, skip a stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch, and then chain 3, skip a stitch, and single crochet into the next stitch, and we'll do that all the way around. And then slip stitch into the very first chain once we get to the end of this row. And we'll chain 1, and so into the first available stitch that we had skipped in the previous row, we're going to slip stitch, and then into the next available stitch we're going to work into the front loop of that stitch, and we'll do 5 double crochets. So 5 front loop double crochets. And then into the next available stitch that we had skipped, we'll slip stitch. And then into the next available stitch that we had skipped, we'll do 5 front loop double crochets. So you kind of have to pull the chain 3 behind, or pull it back to get to the stitch you want. And we'll do that all the way around until you have no more skipped stitches to work into. So you should end up having 4 petals total. And once we've made our last double crochet of our last petal, we're going to do an invisible join into the first slip stitch that we made in the row. So I'll show you how to do that. So you need about 6 inches of a tail, and into the stitch that we want to work the invisible join into, which in this case is the slip stitch. So the first slip stitch that we made of the row, insert our needle under both loops of that stitch, and then pull, and then into the back loop of the stitch that our tail is coming out of, we'll insert again. And to complete it, we have to weave our end in. And I'm just gonna weave in my other tail while I'm at it. And we're gonna insert our next color into a chain, one of the chain spaces behind one of the 5 double crochet groups. I'm going to join with a standing single crochet. And then into the next chain space, slip stitch. And then 5 double crochets into the next chain space. And then into the next chain space, slip stitch. Into the next chain space, 5 double crochets. So we'll do that all the way around. And once we've done our last double crochet of the row, we're going to do another invisible join into that first slip stitch that we made. So into under both loops of that slip stitch, and then bring it back and into the back loop of the stitch that the tail's coming out of. And then we're gonna weave in the ends. Your invisible join won't be secure enough if you don't weave the end in. Next, we're going to start with a new color. I'm switching back to yellow. You have to look on the back side of the flower. We're gonna join our new color around this post. So the single crochet from a previous row, we're gonna work a back post single crochet, and we're making a standing single crochet by starting with the slip knot already on our hook, and then chain 3, and then another back post single crochet around that previous single crochet. 3, and again around the next single crochet we're doing a back post single crochet. So we're gonna do that all the way around. Back post single crochet and then chain 3. And once we've done our last back post single crochet, we're gonna chain 3 again and slip stitch into that very first single crochet that we made. Then into the first chain space, we're going to slip stitch, and then into the next chain space, we're gonna do 9 double crochets. And then into the next chain space, we're going to slip stitch. And then into the next chain space, we're going to do 9 double crochets. Into the next chain space, we're going to slip stitch. And then again, into the next chain space, we're going to do 9 double crochets. So we'll do that until we get back to the beginning of the row. And once you've done your last double crochet of the row, we're going to do another invisible join into the first slip stitch of the row. And weave in our ends. We're going to start with a new color the same way we started with the last color, and we're going to start with a back post standing single crochet and then chain 3. And then around the next post, we'll do a back post single crochet and then chain 3 and keep doing that same thing all the way around. And then after our last chain 3, we're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made. And then into each chain space, we're going to single crochet, 10 double crochets, and single crochet. So that into each chain space. So into each chain space, single crochet, 10 double crochet, and a single crochet. And after we've done our last single crochet, we'll slip stitch into the first single crochet, and then we're going to work into the previous row around the previous single crochet and do a back post single crochet. And then chain 4, and then around the next post between the petals, a back post single crochet, and then chain 4. So we're working around the posts between each petal that we just made, and do that all the way around. And then after our last chain 4, we'll slip stitch into that first single crochet, and then into each chain space. It'll be similar to the previous petals. We're going to do a single crochet, 8 double crochets, and a single crochet. All of that into each chain space. And once we've made our last petal, we will do an invisible join into the first single crochet that we made. And then weave in our ends. And it's looking good. Then with our new color, which green would probably be the best because these are going to be the leaves of the flower. We're going to start with another back post standing single crochet. And then we'll chain 4 and same thing. We'll do a back post single crochet around the next post and then chain 8, and then around that same post that we just single crocheted around, we're going to slip stitch around. So back post slip stitch around that same post, and then chain 4, and then back post single crochet around the next post, and then chain 4, back post single crochet around the next post, and then chain 8 and back post slip stitch around that same post that we just worked around. And we'll continue that same pattern. We should end up with 4 chain 8 groups, and in between each chain 8 there should be 2 different chains of the chain 4 groups. And our last chain should be a chain 4, since we started with a chain 4. And after our last chain 4, we will slip stitch into the first single crochet, and then into the next chain 4 space we'll do 2 single crochets, and then into the chain 8 space. So all of this into the chain 8 space. We're going to do 10 double crochets, a picot stitch, and 10 double crochets. I'll show you the picot stitch once we get there. So 10 double crochets, and then chain 3 and slip stitch into the third chain from our hook. So the first chain that we just made, and then 10 double crochets. So this is making the leaf. Into the next chain 4 space, we'll do 2 single crochets, and then into the next chain 4 space, 2 single crochets, and then into the 8 chain space we're going to do the same thing that we did before. So 10 double crochets, a 3 chained picot stitch, and 10 double crochets. And then we'll just keep repeating that. So into each chain 4 space we'll do 2 single crochets, and into each 8 chain space we'll do 10 double crochets, a picot stitch, and 10 double crochets. And we should end in a chain 4 space with 2 single crochets. And once we've done our last 2 single crochets, we're going to do an invisible join into the second single crochet that we made. And then weave in our ends. And then we're going to join with our next color around one of the posts in between 2 leaves. So just like we've been doing in previous rows, we'll start with a standing back post single crochet and then chain 5, and then a back post single crochet around the whole chunk under the leaf, so that single crochet and slip stitch that we made. So we'll single crochet around both of those and then chain 5, and then around the next post between the leaves we'll do a back post single crochet, chain 5, and then same thing around the single crochet and slip stitch posts, or back post single crochet, and keep doing back post single crochets all the way around. And once we do our last chain 5, we're going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that we made. And then into the first 3 chains, we're going to do slip stitches. So work them into the actual chains, not just into the chain space. We need to work them into the chains. So it's kind of hard, can be kind of hard to get in there. And then we'll single crochet into the chain space that we're working in, and then chain 8, and then single crochet into the next chain space. And then chain 6, and single crochet into the next chain space. And we'll continue that same pattern. So chain 8, single crochet into the next chain space, chain 6, single crochet into the next chain space. And we'll end with a chain 6 in the row, since we started with a chain 8. And after we do our chain 6, we'll slip stitch into that first single crochet that we made. And then similar to the previous row, we're going to slip stitch into the first 4 chains. So we need to slip stitch into the actual chains, not just the chain space. And then into the same chain space, we'll do 6 single crochets. So these we can work into the actual chain space. And then into the next chain space, which should be a chain 6 space, we'll do 5 single crochets. And then into the next chain space, which should be a chain 8 space, we'll do 10 single crochets. And we'll continue that same pattern all the way around. So into each chain 6 space, we'll do 5 single crochets, and into each chain 8 space, we'll do 10 single crochets. And the last chain we work into should be a chain 6 space. So we'll finish with our last 5 single crochets, and then into the first chain space that we did our slip stitches into at the beginning of the row, we're going to work into the chain space. So around those slip stitches, we'll do 4 single crochets, and then slip stitch into the first single crochet, and then chain 3, into the next 14 stitches we'll double crochet. So 14 double crochets. And then into the next stitch we'll double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then into the next 14 stitches we'll double crochet. This is how we're making it square. And then into the next stitch after our 14 double crochets, we'll double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then into the next 14 stitches, we'll double crochet. And into the next stitch, again, we will double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then double crochet into the next 14 stitches. And after our 14 double crochets into the same stitch that the chain 3 is coming out of, we're going to double crochet, chain 1, so we're not going to chain 2 this time, and then single crochet into the third chain. And then chain 3, and we're going to secure each leaf. So we're going to start with the left side of this leaf. So we're going to yarn over and then insert into the back loop of the double crochet right after the picot stitch of the leaf, and then into the back loop of the stitch from the previous row. So the next stitch right after the chain. We're going to yarn over and then pull through both of those loops and then complete our double crochet just like a regular double crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then back loop double crochet to the next 14 stitches. Once we get to the stitch right before the chain space, we're going to secure the right side of this next leaf. So we're going to yarn over and then insert into the back loop of the double crochet right before the picot stitch on the leaf, and then inserting into the back loop of the stitch right before the chain space, and then yarn over, pull through those 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then into the chain space, we're going to double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then into the next stitch right after the chain space, we are going to secure the left side of the leaf. We're going to yarn over into the double crochet right after the picot stitch on the leaf. We're going to insert into the back loop and then insert into the back loop of the stitch right after the chain space, and then yarn over, pull through both of those loops, and then complete the double crochet. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And into the next 14 stitches, we'll do back loop double crochets. And then on the next 2 leaves, we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did to secure them. In between each leaf, we'll do 14 back loop double crochets, and in each corner chain space, we'll do double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And when we get to the very end, I'll meet you back to secure the right side of the leaf we started with. So we're going to secure the right side of this leaf in the same way that we secured the right side of every other leaf. So yarn over, insert to the back loop of the double crochet right before the picot stitch, and then into the back loop of the stitch right before the chain space, and then yarn over, pull through both those loops, and then complete our double crochet. And then into the chain space that the chain we started with is coming out of, we'll double crochet, and then chain 1 and single crochet into the third chain. So we'll chain 3 and then into the next stitch we'll back loop double crochet, and then back loop a double crochet all the way down. So it should end up being 17 double crochets, 17 back loop double crochets. And then into the chain space, we'll double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet. And then we'll into the next 17 stitches, we'll back loop double crochet. And we're gonna do that same pattern all the way around. So into the next chain space, we'll double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And then into the next 17 stitches, we'll do back loop double crochets. And then into the next chain space, double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Into the next 17 stitches, back loop double crochets. Once we get to the end, into the chain space that the chain 3 is coming out of, we'll double crochet and then chain 2, and we're going to do an invisible join into the first actual double crochet. So the top of that double crochet, and then weave in the last of our ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tutorials like this. Plus, if you subscribe, you'll get to see what I end up making with all of these flower granny squares. So subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.